Greetings! Ciao, bella ascoltatore. I'm Laura Valtorta. Welcome to a new episode of my story podcast, B is for Bisexual, Season 4, Part 3, a short story entitled Gargoyle. This story resembles my life as an attorney and filmmaker. Plus, I wanted to have another chance to make animal sounds, so that's why I wrote it. With me today are my son Dante.
Ciao, cock-a-doodle-doo.
And my husband Marco.
Buongiorno.
As always, they are helping me out here, and I love that. My films include Disability and Bermuda, both on Amazon and Tubi, and my newest creations, AI and the Family and Zoom Hit, both on the Fossum channel. We are all stressed out in the United States these days and very likely to turn into gargoyles at a moment's notice because we fear the federal government and the wackadoodles running it. This is not the way a government is supposed to be for citizens like us who want to obey the rules. The government is supposed to help us, not subjugate us. Stay safe, everybody, and find peace. Here is Gargoyle. Do-do-do-do! Flora Zampello, attorney and indie film director, had rolled yellow caution tape around the trees surrounding her backyard picnic table. She wanted Malcolm, the yard guy, to mow around that area and leave the grass inside the tape long and ragged, filled with dandelions, a place that would please the squirrels. They were about to film a scene there in 1 week for a hilarious horror film that punched the patriarchy in the gut. Bad Squirrel Yard. The plot went like this. A women's church group turned into big angry critters that attacked the priest when he joined them for tea. Flora had written the screenplay herself. The caution tape was more for her than anybody else. A test site. Would the horrible, terrible thing happen again? She feared it would. She thrust her left foot into the set area and claws began to form. Her shoe popped off. P.U. The stink of sulfur arose. She knew that if she put her head in, the effect would be worse. A monster face, curved spine, 4 paws, a broken chain around her neck, snarling commands instead of directions. When that happened, she looked like she belonged on a ledge stuck to the side of Notre Dame. So far, she had not developed any wings. Once she had left the set and swallowed an Advil migraine, her body went back to normal. Her blood pressure went down. The horrible, terrible thing only happened when she was on set, when she was in the stressful midst of directing a film. But now, the transformation was occurring apart from the actual filming time on any place that was designated to be a set. She withdrew her foot. The claws receded. The stink blew away. She picked up her shoe and jabbed it back on her foot. At work, at her law office, things smelled just fine, and her voice sounded normal, if a bit too airy and soft for her liking. She needed to be tough, like Clint Eastwood. As a disability attorney, she helped folks get benefits and Medicaid, sometimes Medicare, if their lives had been blessed with work. The state of South Carolina hammered down hard on her clients, and the Social Security Administration was even worse. Sometimes she wanted to rip the judges' heads off, but she couldn't. She had to be polite. Yes, Judge. No, Judge. I understand, Judge. Thank you. She did not understand the judges, the deniers who denied people benefits. Never had. Wasn't the strength of a country based on its people, its ability to protect and serve its citizens? These clients of hers had worked for their benefits, paid into the system. Why was the system abandoning them and their children? Filmmaking, on the other hand, was supposed to be fun. Time off from work. Creative time. And for the most part it was. Creative and enjoyable to hear her words being spoken by professionals. But then she also had to deal with actors and crew who liked to goof around, make jumble noises, demand complicated food for lunches. And now she was experiencing director Gargoyle transformation. It was too much. She called Mencken, her cinematographer. Hi, Mencken, it's Flora.
Yes?
Mencken sounded apprehensive.
What's going on today?
Oh, nothing, she said. Nothing to worry about. I was just going over the music for Bad Squirrel. Tried to avoid doing any legal work over the weekend.
Well, did you find some good music?
Oh, maybe a wailing piece that sounds like German opera on Soundstripe. Mencken said nothing. His taste in music appeared to lean toward classic country and classic Christian. Flora continued, but then I thought about some cool jazz. Maybe some jazz combined with rap. Plus some cicada mating sounds that I recorded on the Palmetto Trail. Mencken was silent for a moment.
Well, looks like whatever you pick is fine with me.
He paused, a tense pause that implied, just as long as you don't turn into a scary monster again. Well, I'll find some jazz musicians who are cool. Ciao. Flora hung up and slapped herself on the forehead. What sort of jazz musician who incorporated rap into their work was not cool? It was a statistical impossibility. She wished she could carry on a rational conversation and not sound idiotic. The problem was work, legal work. The whole system of the federal government doling out disability and Medicaid or Medicare had been hinky for some time, but lately it was getting worse. The judges were dumpsters. The clients, who were starving and in need of medical care, depended on her, their attorney, for help. She was supposed to be their knight on a horse, wielding a javelin, charging the Social Security Administration. But instead, she was turning into a gargoyle. At home, she looked up local jazz musicians on YouTube and emailed a couple inquiring about licensing their work. One of them, named Dolores, played some jazz keyboard entitled Nature Sounds. The songs were soothing. She also looked cute, with kinky hair and dark skin. Flora patted her own head, covered with kinky gray hair, and wondered where the years had gone. She used to be hot. Now she was not. The following week, she prepared for a video hearing involving her client, Bob, who was weakened by a rare bone disorder and long-time steroid prescriptions. Her client was in pain and generally out of it, but since he was under 50 years old, Flora wondered if his benefits would be stopped or continued. Luckily, Bob had a smart partner, Olivia Merriweather, a hardworking gal who was not taking any prisoners.
Can you help us?
Olivia demanded in Flora's office.
Your attorney. Bob needs help.
Flora smiled at Olivia's upfront attitude. Oh, I don't know, Miss Merriweather, she said, but I will try. Give it the good old college try. You never know what these dunder-headed judges are going to do. We are all lawyers, after all, making medical decisions. Olivia shrugged.
You're the attorney.
So let's get ready for the hearing. For the next hour, she prepped Bob by asking him the usual questions that the judge might ask and writing down Bob's responses. It was important that the judge understand that Bob wanted to work. He had a long history of working as an accountant, but he was unable to work any longer or do much of anything at all because of his bones turning to lace from the steroids. Bob was not malingering. If only the judge would treat Bob as a person and not a notch to add to his belt of denials. Boo, 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 boo. The night before the hearing, Flora had a dream about strange shapes, squares and rhombi, dots and lines, cylinders, spheres floating through the air, interchanging in purple, yellow, and blue. She also imagined the strategies involved in the games Jenga and Othello, her two favorite childhood games, after Scrabble, of course, and how to strategize when the pieces wouldn't fit together. In Othello, in her dream, she was failing to guard the outer edges and the corners. That was all where the points came in. In Jenga, she was top-heavy with desire. The desire to create, the desire to make the world work. Better to build a solid base. Start with straightening out the law. That morning, showering early, she felt she had the answer to stop the horrible, terrible thing. She ate a smoothie for breakfast, a small cup of coffee. She made sure to add a cold blackberry bubbly to bring with her in the car. As always, she was surprised by the number of commuters who got on the road at 7 a.m. Her usual time to leave for work was 9 a.m., a comfortable time. But she always had to leave earlier when she was facing an annoying early morning hearing. Her office was sunny, cold, and bright. She had plenty of bubbly, fizzy water in the fridge. Her 4-point argument was ready. She printed it out in Comic Sans. Judge Hammond better be prepared. She hoped that Bob was feeling up to it. Since the doctors had taken him off the steroids, his pain had skyrocketed. He couldn't sleep. He had no income. Flora hoped that Medicare would allow him to return to an orthopedist who specialized in non-cancerous bone disorders, get back to his life. Olivia and Bob arrived at 8 a.m. They looked scared. Do-do-do-do! Sitting in front of her computer, waiting for the hearing to begin, Flora felt bad to the bone, like George Thorogood. Whatever went wrong with the U.S. and its patriarchy, there was always music, the wonderful blues, bluegrass, rock, gospel, and rap that the country produced. Bob was slumped next to her. They waited in silence until Judge Hammond appeared on the screen, and a window showing Flora and Bob popped up in the corner. Judge Hammond was from Arkansas, a bald, light bulb head, humorless guy. Flora hoped he was having a good morning.
Mrs. Zampello, is that your client sitting next to you?
Yes, Judge. She moved her MacBook around so that Bob appeared squarely in the frame.
Counsel, do you have an opening statement?
Yes, Judge, I do. A strong stink of sulfur filled the conference room. Bob appeared not to notice, and Flora found it strangely comforting. I have 4 points to make about this claim. Her voice was different. She tried to put 3 fingers in front of the camera to indicate 3 points, but her hand had turned into a furry paw. Number 1. Bob worked until the bone disease forced him to stop. She looked into the camera, and her face was a satanic dog animal with fangs for teeth. She had a broken chain hanging around her neck. Number 2. The most recent decision, denying Bob his benefits, mentioned nothing about this life-threatening bone disease. Flora had forgotten how to count. Her back was hunched over. Her mouth sprang open and grinned a hellish grin with yellow fangs and leering lips. From her shoulders, she began to sprout wings. Number 3, she growled. Bob's medical records are filled with numerous references to the gravity of this bone disease, but the judge ignored them. Down below the table, Flora's shoes popped off. Her toes grew into claws. And the sulfur stink grew stronger. Number 4, my client needs to receive disability benefits and Medicare like yesterday.
Oh, my goodness.
George Hammond's face had grown sour, as if doing the right thing and awarding Bob the money and health insurance he had paid into for the past 20 years would ruin his lunch.
I don't have any questions for the vocational expert. What about you, Miss Zampello?
Rawr!
Then this hearing is closed. Goodbye. I'm going to Smoky's to get some brisket.
Bob was slumped in his chair.
What happened?
Flora was unable to respond. Rawr! Her wings carried her out the door of the office. She soared into the sky and flew toward Immaculate Consumption restaurant for lunch. Down below her, the lawyers, accountants, and secretaries were scurrying around in their vehicles. Above her, the sky was a gorgeous blue. Do-do-do-do! That weekend in her backyard, on the set of Bad Squirrel Yard, Flora chuckled about her changes to the script. This food served by the women's group in this film to the evil priest had become nut loaf. The priest's name was Father Judd Outlaw. Dolores, the jazz musician and writer, was there for the first day of shooting to observe what was going on and to help Flora choose songs that would carry the action forward. Dolores was cute, all right, funny and intelligent. She and Flora were two curly heads on the set together. One of them was short, Dolores, and the other tall, Flora. Flora consulted with Mencken about the placement of the actors, where they would walk and move, how they would serve the nut loaf. She adjusted the director's monitor so that she could see things better. Then she brought over 2 chairs and waved an invitation to Dolores to sit right next to her.
This is so exciting,
said Dolores. Nerve-wracking, said Flora. But with Dolores on the set, she knew she had to keep her temper in check, laugh along with the simian crew. Direct like a professional instead of a monster. This film would soon become art, the most civilized form of revolutionary protest. In the quotidian world of her law office, Bob has won his case as he deserved, and that part was thanks to the Gargoyle. The end. Do-do-do-do. And that's the end of Gargoyle. As we sign out, let's make some more animal noises. Ciao.
Arrivederci.
Ciao.
Ciao a tutti.
That was fine.